Good morning. It's so early and it's so cold. Oh, hey, you. We're sitting here. And I woke up this morning and was like, hey, so I'm noticing in these conversations, good morning, that I want to really talk about the language, right? Like when we're breaking down supremacy culture and its regime, there are things that we need to start thinking about and being aware of. Morning. When you hear something, right, you automatically have a visual or an idea or something, the way, however your brain processes. And it's been given to us all by white supremacy, right? So when you hear the word even woman, you have a picture in your mind. You could Google woman and Google pretty woman, and you'd probably take till page 3 before you see a non-white woman, and damn near page 2 to see a non-blonde white woman even. So like those are those hierarchies of whiteness. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. I love this work, right? Like I really love being intersectional and seeking some type of healing. So when we're having these conversations, right, it is imperative that, one, they continue because they're super duper necessary. 2, we're all mindful of the way that white supremacy has impacted every single group. There is not one group of people that have not been impacted by supremacy culture. That is my entire point. So like I said, like with woman, this is where you wind up getting these terms, right? Because woman, you think blonde, thin, maybe an apron, mom, wife, all of these other adjectives go alongside with woman. So when someone wants to step outside of a colonial construct of what something is, right? A supremacist construct, you wind up with the pushback. That's where you get those terms. So everybody is impacted by supremacy culture. So this morning, I wake up way too freaking early. Like, I don't know why I woke up that early. And I had a comment back to Token Jew 1988 or Token Jew 88. She's a white Jewish woman. I think she identifies as woman. She's a white Jewish person. And she had called me girl. And so I answered back, bitch, because like that's really what girl means coming out of the mouth of a white person, no matter what your other marginalized identity is. Why it's important to remember racial identity in order to be intersectional is because you will then see where you land in that spectrum under how violence can be enacted on another person, right? It's like, and it's for everybody. This is not just for white people. Me, myself, I am a light-skinned black woman. I have a certain texture of hair. I think I'm phenotypically black. There's some people that will argue that my features are not as, unambiguous as my family members. So I recognize that means I could bring violence to somebody else further down that spectrum, right? Being mindful of what I say. If I start talking about dark-skinned women in a disparaging way or using language that has been used against dark-skinned women in a violent way, I now become violent. I now become a tool of white supremacy. Even while being black, I could still be anti-black. See how it works? All of that works in tandem because we're underneath a white supremacist regime. So when we recognize that, having an awareness of your racial identity, because that's what comes first, right? That always comes first in a white supremacist regime. That's not to ignore the hierarchy of whiteness, many layers. So I am not here to say, well, white Jews are white. I mean, yes and no. They are white for us here in the way that they could wield the violence of their whiteness, not their Jewishness. This is the key to recognizing their racial identity, but has nothing to do with them being Jewish. It has everything to do with them being white. And that's why they're problematic. They're not problematic because they're Jewish. like plenty of Jewish non-white people. They're not problematic because they're Jewish. They're problematic because they're white. That's it. Redneck Rising, could you do me a favor and block Yecombs 00? Appreciate you. So when we're having these conversations, but then you still have to remember that, yes, they are white for us and the violence that they could wield, but in whiteness, in those hierarchies of whiteness, there is violence that is enacted on them consistently, daily, all the time. All the time. It is inescapable for them as well if they come up and look phenotypically Jewish, according to a white supremacist regime. So that is intersectionality, right? Recognizing like, yo, I get it. In whiteness, you guys are not white. Not white enough, put it that way. But in blackness, you're still white. So in that comment section, when I wake up and I totally see somebody literally turns around and was like, oh, talking about Kanye. She had posted Kanye when Kanye was explaining like, oh, well, actually what I'm trying to say is that we are jealous as black people of what the Jewish community has created. Now, again, this is white Jewish community. And again, we're not socialized with white Jewish people because that's just not how it goes. Like, that's just not it. So we've all been given ideas, tropes, languages, words, ideas, the visual that pops up, like I said when I said woman. You get a visual when somebody says black man, black woman. You have an idea. And every single idea came from white supremacy. Every single one. You have not had an original thought in quite some time. Not because you're not intelligent, not because you don't feel things deeply, because capitalism, see how all of these things intersect, got you in a fucking chokehold. You have no time to think. You're waking up in the morning, you're rushing to go to work, maybe you got some kids, you got to get them to school, you got to do a fucking 2-hour commute. All of these things intersect, and we cannot dismantle it without paying attention to those intersections in all of the ways that supremacy culture impacts. So now going back to that, you don't get the time to think about it. So in that comment section, when someone literally was talking about Kanye, who really got these ideas from white supremacy, not in a negative way, because understand, white supremacy tells black people, well, why are you not able to do this? The Jews did it. That is what they get told. And then they make the face of Jewish people white because that's white supremacy. Like that's how it works. That is how it works. They weaponize people against other people, right? Like that is how that works. So you turn around and we get this information like, yeah, man, the Jews got it going on, right? Like they fucking get to go to school. They're running the banks. They're running that. Damn, how do we do that? So we put that vision into us about white Jewish people in a positive light, right? Like in an idea. And then you add in the whiteness. Oh, please sit down and listen. Talk even. You add in the whiteness and white supremacy comes with it. And this is how white supremacy is playing in both of our faces, right? So when you're in a comment section, she's literally discussing about how Kanye West is being anti-Semitic, which I'm not denying he's using anti-Semitic rhetoric and language and not recognizing how it impacts white Jews in the hierarchies of whiteness. The topic is like the language of whiteness and how it gets wielded against us in these ways. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and she posted that part of Kanye talking about, we're jealous of like what goes on with within the Jewish community and how we would basically like to mimic that. Hi, Gaia. And in that same comment section, she allows a comment for somebody to be like, oh, haha, good Jews versus bad Jews. Is that like good niggas versus bad niggas? With the ER. 2 days, it sat in her comment section and liked. Hey. With no one checking it. Not one person in the comment section. Not one person in the comment section, not the OP themselves, whilst talking about anti-Semitism and talking about how dangerous and violent the language of whiteness, that black and brown like people are to white Jews. And not seeing the violence that could bring to black people. Because, hi, psst, come here, closer. White supremacists don't like us either. It's almost like we should be on the same team because they want us both dead. The same way you're concerned about going to shul, wearing a kippah, worried about your yeshiva schools, we are worried about sending our children to regular school. Our kids playing in parks with Nerf guns. Our husbands going to stores. Our daughters laying in their bed. And that is where we need to really be getting intersectional. Hey, good morning, Mona. Yeah, we're here early this morning because I seen the N-word with the hard ER at 6 fucking a.m. And I'm just like, what? Like, how is this happening? A second video then goes on to discuss, she's answering back to a black person, morning, who is talking and is like, yes, why, I do edit the video. Why would a black person be any less violent to me, or why should I be worried? Basically, why should they be any less worried about a black person being anti-Semitic over a white person being anti-Semitic? And I'm like, I swear to God, white people, no matter their marginalization, I don't care if you're queer, I don't care if you're disabled, I don't care if you're Jewish, I don't care what your marginalization is. Y'all be white first. Like, white people are gonna white, no matter their marginalization. And that's the position that white supremacy puts you in. So literally running smack dab into the point, because that's how we feel. So when white Jewish people are here talking about, oh, we're violent, we're this, doing that, hi, that is the language. That is the language of white supremacy. Oh, good morning. Hi, Auntie Wicks. That's the language of white supremacy. For black people, we're violent, we're volatile, we're angry. Simple words, right? That you don't think about it, right? To say angry, to tell black women they're strong, to fawn all over black men and their bodies, right? Like, all of these things are stuff that's been indoctrinated to you by white supremacy. Us believing that the Jews run the fucking world. Though there's like 20. like instead of the people that we actually know that run the fucking world, we're going to run with the conspiracy theory that the white Jews do. It is absolutely insane. Good morning. So like, when we're doing any of this work, recognizing your racial identity, recognizing the spectrum of all of these things, is super important. My mods, can I just say, like, shout outs, much appreciated, because I don't really want to curse anybody out this morning. I just want to discuss with friends as we continue to do this work and seeking solidarity. Because for me, that's it. That's all I want. I want solidarity. Period. Right? Is it going to be uncomfortable? Because I damn sure got a content violation. I was like, oh, like, so we're going to be using N-words? How about that K-word? Do you understand how that feels now? So I got the content violation, but I'm fine with that. And I'm fine with confronting uncomfortable conversations. And I'm telling every single person who is white, no matter your marginalization, the language that you use is that of white supremacy also. And the fact that you can't see that is your whiteness, which is exactly why we have a problem with it. Because it's racist, it's anti-black, it's violent, it causes us damage every fucking where we go. Because as we are witnessing like a public whipping and lynching of black men, stripping them of everything. Like, I'm going to remind you, you're black today. What you're not noticing because of your anti-blackness is white supremacy is making it more dangerous for you. We're not. We're not going to go to your synagogue and bomb it. Not ever. Ever will we do that. We're not doing that. However, allowing white supremacy to weaponize you against black people, boom, we can't. It's like, ooh, separate, because you then become just as dangerous. The same way you feel we are just as dangerous to you because we're using anti-Semitic rhetoric. I could own that. But you're being just as dangerous to us with your racist rhetoric, with your anti-black rhetoric. And this is how white supremacy plays with us. And we could keep arguing. I'll argue all day, sweetie. I fight. From the Bronx, it's okay. Like, I'm never scared. It's okay to become uncomfortable, right? We have to sit with these truths and what's been handed to us. It's just that simple. Like, yeah, and I could own it. Like, the things that these black men are saying is absolutely fucking anti-Semitic. Do they understand it in the same way that white people would say it in an anti-Semitic way? I don't think so. I really don't. I just honestly don't. Does that change anything? No, right? Because intent versus impact. So I get that. The problem is, again, the language you guys are using. Do you notice how that impacts us? And then we're just like sitting there and like, guys always want to remind me of like the very low percentage that you are worldwide. Exactly. Divide and conquer. So like, if they can do that and we're like, fuck them. We ain't fucking with them either. Just chalk them up into the box of other white folks that we just don't need to be fucking with. Because for us, it doesn't look any different. It doesn't sound any different. The same way anti-Semitism doesn't sound any different coming from my mouth. And your anti-blackness and racism gets in the way of you seeing that. So it leaves us with, what are we doing? Where are we at? Morning, Danny. What's the plan? Are we going to keep on doing this forever? Until we're extinct and whiteness just expands itself so damn much that even like, you know, like chicks that look like me are starting to be almost like they low-key trying to classify me as white as I'm watching white women blackfish all damn day long to look racially ambiguous. We are watching in real time the expansion of whiteness. We are watching in real time the patterns of white supremacy. But we'll pull out every fucking slogan. Never forget, never again, not one step back. Always remember, whatever the fuck. Feel good slogan feels good. Yes, Auntie Wigs. I also have been told I'm not black. And it's because of chicks like, what is that? That bad Barbie or whatever the fuck. The Catch Me Outside girl. This chick looks like me younger. I did makeup. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is getting terrifying. And we should all be terrified. Like, not in a weird panicky way. Because, I mean, like, these cycles continue. There's nothing new underneath the sun. But we should be really deeply mindful and intentional about our healing journey. Because that's what it is. I see Ye aligning with the Alpha Podcast guys, which sounds too much like Joe Rogan misogyny rules. Yeah. So like, here's what happens in whiteness for me, right? I could hold all the truths, like that expansive. You guys push people out. So like, it is white culture. It is supremacist culture to not call in your folks, to not hold them and be like, hey, you were wrong. Can we talk about that? Let me tell you why it's wrong. Instead, it's like, nah, fuck you. We're not fucking with you. We're pushing you out. Where do we push them to? It's like gangs. It's like why I really fully believe that poor people and people from the hood need to be in these conversations, because y'all are never intersectional enough when it comes down to the classism of it. In the American pyramid scheme, the MLM, these folks right here are all going through the same thing. That class solidarity is necessary, and those people need to be talking. Because if you have, that's how gangs recruit people. The simple. They're pushed out. They ain't got no love at home. Mom's working. Maybe dad's gone. All of the things, all of the horrible things that happen inside of poverty. And they join something to feel a part of something. We're communal. by nature. We're supposed to be in community. Your commitment to not let white supremacy divide us either from racism or anti-Semitism is inspiring. Well, good. I hope the fuck it is. Because that is always the thing that is at play. That is the foundation that this business that is America was built on. Stolen land with stolen people. And it's always been this way. And these patterns have not changed since Europe, when Europeans were colonizing other Europeans. There's always been a hierarchy of whiteness. That's thousands of years old. And not understanding how that goes into play exactly keeps us apart. Like, I would have a conversation with the token Jew, and I fucking hate that that's her name, and it's coming out of my mouth, because that's not how I feel. That just happens to be her username, right? So, like, I don't want anybody to hear me saying those words and be like, this black chick is calling some Jewish woman a token. No, that's actually their name. I would have that conversation. Are people willing? Because I'm never looking for an echo chamber. Never, ever, ever. Right? Never. You don't have to agree with me. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I was forbidden from asking my grandfather about his Native American family. He screamed, we're white. That's the violence of whiteness. Because, like, who the hell wants to deal with the true violence, right? Like, people assimilate it, and those people can. If you could look that way, you could assimilate. This is why I'm like, listen, hypes. Black people can't escape white supremacy. Like, there's no assimilating for us, right? And that's me. So imagine the most unambiguously black person. There's no escape from white supremacy. It's on our necks all day. 24/7, 365, and on a fucking leap year. It does not matter. It's there. And we can't move away from it. So when you guys stop at your marginalization, very specifically, when you are a white person, no matter your marginalization, I get it, right? Like, I understand, like, don't call me white, I'm Jewish. I get it. Because, like, when people used to be like, oh, you're black and white, I'm like, oh, easy, partner. I'm Irish and black. I'm like, whoa, don't be dropping the white on me. I actually have a culture, right? So I get that. But I'm also aware of the fact that my mother very much was still a white woman, as Irish as she is. My grandmother, whole ass immigrant. My grandfather, whole ass immigrant. My mother's a first generation American. Still white. Also Irish. But not recognizing your racial identity is where you impact other people. And where it stops the solidarity. You know, there's a whole running joke like, oh, I know black, I Dominican. We get that. We totally get that. We understand culture. Black American is not the same as blacks across the diaspora. We understand that. But do you still understand you're black? Like, that's like, because we're talking about a regime. Like, to not see this supremacy as a full regime, you are missing how deep and wide it goes. It's perfectly systemized against us. Other groups have been able to pass as white. Right? You got to hold that truth, right? And like I said, it's cool to have your own identity. I wouldn't strip anybody of their identity. That's whiteness that does that. We never do that. Like, we don't do that. We're just simply asking that you pay attention to the language that you use. And we're holding, those of us who are holding black people accountable for the language that they use too. But being mindful very specifically right now, while this tension is so high between the black and the white Jewish community, is that your anti-racist, your anti-blackness and your racist language, the same language you're fighting against on anti-Semitism from black people, yours is just as violent to black people. And you can't see that because of your whiteness. And somehow, in the same breath, you will want to tell us how violent it is for you in whiteness because you're not really white, because you're Jewish. I need y'all to seriously unpack that. And I need white Jewish people that see other white Jewish people doing that reminding them that it's the same. In that same context, in that same comment section, when Kanye had said, like, we're still going through a Holocaust, there was a white Jewish person that turned around and said, don't trivialize what we went through. Are we in oppression Olympics here? Are you vying for top spot of the oppressed? I want liberation, right? I don't fucking need the gold star to say we're the most oppressed. But what you won't do is turn around and act like things did not happen here. Massacres, punch bowls, actual Black Holocaust, kidnapping of us. like what's still happening daily. Don't trivialize us either. It's like you got a lock on oppression because it's only been validated by whiteness. And you should unpack that because whiteness said the Holocaust mattered. So let me ask you something. If you happen to come upon this, if whiteness never said the Holocaust mattered, because it damn sure didn't matter when it was happening. Think about that. So is it only important because whiteness has validated it for y'all? So are you saying that the enslavement of our ancestors, the continued oppression of Black people, the continued violence on Black people is not important because whiteness didn't validate it? And that is what I'm saying. Your whiteness will get in the fucking way of your own liberation because your whiteness allows you a space to be anti-Black and racist. And your language is that of white supremacists. And I do this work from like an ancestral place. And I'm like, you think your ancestors would be proud? Like, do you think that your ancestors would be okay with you using the same language of those that took their lives? You mimicking white supremacy. And same for us as Black people. This is a two-way street. Everybody could get it. We need to really be mindful. 13 million Africans unalive by King Leopold in the Congo. Right. Are we talking numbers? I'm not vying for top spot oppressed. I don't want that roster. And I damn sure don't need whiteness to validate a fucking thing for me. I don't need them to tell me that, oh yeah, the Black Holocaust happened. We're saying it. Like, imagine me needing whiteness to validate anything. And that fact is it's very weird. It's just very weird. I love you and appreciate you and your presence in this space. So thank you. It's just a very weird thing. It's so much work to do. It's so much work to do. And I'm here. I'm here to do the work. So like, if people are willing, let's keep having these conversations. Let's get super uncomfortable. I'm going to say shit. You're going to say shit. But if we're going to be really willing to do this work, let's do it. Like, let's do it. But you got to be willing to sit with how anti-Black and fucking racist y'all are. And I don't care about your marginalization and whiteness. I don't. If you are white, no matter your marginalization, you need to be recognizing your racial identity. That is your first step. And what do? I need a checklist. That's it. Step 1. Recognize your racial identity. Like, that's it. Indigenous Holocaust still running since 1492 to present, 2022. Correct. Notice how I wasn't like, I don't give a fuck about that. We talking about Black people. Sometimes, yeah, we are. But right now we're talking about intersectionality. Right. Like, these things are still happening. Like, Jewish people who are holding on to the Holocaust, you're still being killed by white supremacy. Why is it just the Holocaust for you? White supremacy is still killing you. They are still marching with signs that say Jews will not replace us. They are bombing yeshiva schools today. But that validation, that stamp from whiteness, said the Holocaust mattered, is all of a sudden makes you so fucking protected that you think you're beyond reproach. And that will never fucking happen. Ever. Because there's no way to get to solidarity if we can't confront truths. None. We got to be honest about it here. So that's pretty much where I'm at this morning. Good morning. And we're going to just keep having these conversations. I'm super excited to be going live with a couple of Jewish creators, both black and white. Panel discussions are happening. Workshops are being created. Because this is it, fam. This is it. This is my work until I die. Y'all get on my goddamn nerves. But I'm going to do it. This is my legacy work. This is it. So I love you guys. Thank you for putting up with me and my insanity sometimes. And thank you for being uncomfortable and willing to do the work. I will try to upload this to my YouTube if in fact you missed it or just jumped on. I got to do better about that. I'm like, in my mind, I upload them, but I haven't. So I will work on that. Maybe today. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. End it. Look at me, not knowing how to end it. I can't even see the ends button, child. There we go. Bye. Look at me, not knowing how to end it. I can't even see the ends button, child. There we go.